trauma inflicted on you, your parents, your children, your profession, that is not you. That is not a describer of you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Finding who you are and understanding that what has happened does not ever define you. Welcome to episode 78 of the Positivity Experience. It's all about knowing who you are. Check it out. Hey everybody, and welcome back to episode 78 of the Positivity Experience. Oh my goodness. Before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to our newest Patreon members. Over at the gratitude level, we have Anne-Marie Johnston, and over at the abundance level, we have Danny Ross. So thank you guys so much. If you're wondering what Patreon is, it is a paid kind of toolbox that goes in conjunction with this podcast. So think of it as like an exercise book or an exercise podcast to kind of go with what we're talking about each week. So if that's something you're interested in, there's always in the show notes and the show description, there's always a link. It'll take you right out to the website and you can do it right there. But we're here now. So let's kind of talk about it. And it's so important because I am down in Virginia as I'm filming this, as I'm recording this, and I am officiating a wedding for an amazing client, been a client for years, probably 8 or 9 years. And so funny because it's something that she and I and her mom and I, we were just talking about, is how you're not defined by what has happened to you. You're not defined by who your parents are. You're not defined by what society tells you. And you're not defined by the role in which you play in life. And this is where so many people get lost, in all of it. And this was the perfect day to record this because so many people get caught up in their trauma and caught up in what they think that they're supposed to do and caught up in being a parent, caught up in being a worker. And that's not who you are. Those are all roles, but that's not who you are. So I want to jump into that because I think when you guys think about who are you, so, okay, I'm going to give you an example of that, right? So just in your head, I want you to think when I say to you, who are you? Okay, really? So literally pause this podcast for a second and ask yourself, who am I? And get a paper and pen, as always, that's my jam, and write down what you are or who you are, right? And if you're like, I'm not sure who I am, that's fine too. Just write that down. Okay, so pause that and then come back. Okay, now that you're back, if you wrote anything like, I'm a wife, I am a mother, I am a husband, I am a father, I am a business owner, I am whatever, I am kind, that's great. But that's not who you are. Being a mom is not who you are. It does not define you. And this is where people come into play of having a hard time during empty nest syndrome. Okay, so let's say, and some of you are there, right? I know this because you reach out to me. So some of you struggle with being an empty nester because you have put your entire being in that one role, but you can't do that because then you're literally saying that your role is now your definition of who you are. And I think so many people get caught up in that and then they go, I feel stuck. I feel lost. Why do I feel this way? Or why do I feel like I'm just like blah? Well, because for so long, you've been trying to dot an I, cross a T, and make sure everybody around you is happy. Yes, do those things. Yes, try to be the best version of yourself as you can for everybody else after your best version for yourself. But see, that's the key. You're not being the best version of yourself if you are defining yourself in any other role. Now, in the beginning, in the trailer, when I said to you guys, your trauma, right? So listen to this and listen to it clearly and absorb this and keep this on loop. Make a little sticky, tattoo it on your face, whatever you need to do. You are not what happened to you. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. You are not what happened to you. So if you had and trauma, and let's be very clear here, your trauma, you don't gauge your trauma against somebody else. You don't get to say, and I know a lot of you do this, well, I mean, I had it bad, but so many people have it worse than me. Okay, you literally just invalidated yourself. It doesn't have to be a competition. We don't need to race to see who has the worst trauma. All right, so you need to stop doing that. Whatever your trauma is real to you. Don't gauge that into somebody else's trauma. Now, that being said, this is where the tough love part comes in at. And you guys know, and for those of you who are my clients, you know this to be like straight to the point. You are not a victim to your circumstances. You were victimized. There were things that have happened to you. But if you remain in a victim mentality, why is my life like this? Why couldn't it have been different? Why can't I be like everybody else? Now listen, that comes up, and that's a very normal part of human life. That's how we have to process it. You must process it though. You don't get to put it on loop and use the reason and allow it to turn into an excuse. Because if you say, well, I was victimized, or, I was a victim, and now you live in that trauma, you now are re-traumatizing yourself every single day. And you have now allowed yourself to become the identity of that trauma. So you have to be really careful in that, because when you sit there and you totally go in that mode of like, why can't I catch a break? Why is everybody else in relationships? Okay. Yeah. You're allowed to look and see it, but always remember the vision in which you see everybody else in their business, in their relationships, and you see it and you think, oh, they're in matching pajamas on Facebook. That's so cute. You don't know what that's like. That's on Facebook. And especially there, don't believe anything over there. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's something that is important for you to understand, that you're seeing a story, but you're seeing the glory. You're not seeing the story. And the glory that you see is solely based on where you feel as though you lack. Okay. So wherever you feel that you lack, you will look into somebody else and really exacerbate it and make it bigger than it is. And then you get into the woe is me. Why am I not doing this? Why am I not here yet? I should have been further along. I've told you guys this. And again, I'm writing a whole chapter on it is, I get that victim mentality. Hell, I lived it for years upon years upon years. To where I really thought that was my identity. I just thought I was just like, okay, well, I had a bad hand dealt. So, this is just my life. Everybody, okay, I'm just angry all the time. I'm angry. I'm miserable. I'm codependent. Why couldn't my life been different? Why couldn't a mom live longer? Why do I have to have that dad? Couldn't I have been adopted? The list is endless. Until, see, you have to know this. No one is coming to save you. I've said this to you multiple times. No one's coming on their horse to save you. It is no one's responsibility to make you feel included, to make you feel loved. It really isn't. I'm not saying that you just like deal with random people who really don't provide any sustenance to your growth. Of course not. But you can't expect people to just drop everything or automatically like include you, because everybody's got something else that they're dealing with. And listen, again, not saying that you're not important, but here's the key. You must be important to yourself. So let's go back to that list. Who are you? All right. So this is where if you feel stuck, if you feel scared, if you feel insecure, if you feel codependent, you don't really know who you are. And do not do that thing where you say, because this is victim mentality again, well, I'm just so nice to everybody else. I'm just too nice. Okay. Well, what are you going to do about that? Well, no, it's just how I am. Okay, so you're not going to do anything about it. So you're not going to do anything about it, but you're going to complain about it. Then you're going to say you're too nice, and you're going to say everybody else is not nice. So the reality is you just allowed yourself to stay in that position. So now you've told yourself, I'm a negative person. I'm miserable. I'm unlucky. Okay, woe is me. That is not ever going to serve your best and highest good. And I will repeat this every time I bring up something about trauma and your experiences. What you went through was absolutely valid. It is real to you. Your emotions behind it's real. It sucks that it happened, but it happened. There's an acceptability that you are not defined by that trauma. You're not defined by it. And when you start finding out who you are, and we're going to go on that here in a second. And over on Patreon, I'm going to give you a really good self-discovery of who you are, but over on the Patreon. But this is so important to understand that when you get to a space, so people ask me this all the time, how do I know that my trauma is healing? Like, how do I know where I am in my journey? Well, to truly manifest, and I promise I'll do a whole podcast and YouTube on that, to truly manifest, okay? Now listen, you're going to manifest, but you're not going to manifest what you think that you were going to manifest. If you are carrying anger, if you're carrying hurt, I didn't say you're not allowed to feel it. You have to process it. If you're not doing your journals, if you're not doing the daily wellness, remember, these are all the tools that you have. You just have to choose to use them. Nobody's going to come use them for you. Nobody's going to follow up behind you and go, did you do it? Did you do it? Nobody's going to do that. You have to police yourself. So you have to understand that when you get into a space of healing, the trauma that was inflicted upon you, you can talk about your trauma and order an iced latte in the same sentence and have the same exact emotion to it. I didn't say numb. Nobody said numb to it. I literally can talk about molestation or talk about various amounts of traumas that have happened in my life. I can talk about it and it doesn't elicit this triggered response. It doesn't elicit this, oh my God, I'm dirty, I'm gross. Why was this me? How did this happen to me? Why? I've been there, done that, bought the shirt, don't recommend the trip. Okay, but sometimes you have to be in that in order to hit the bottom where you can barely stomach to look in the mirror because all you see is your trauma. Sometimes you have to get there. But when you get there, you can't expect everybody else around you to worry about what you went through. You really have to understand this. It is no one's responsibility of the trauma that you went through. Nobody now has to walk on eggshells for you. No one now has to coddle you because of that. Okay, now, if they're not contributing, like now let's say you're in therapy, you're in coaching, you're really doing your work, you're doing everything. If you feel, and I tell you this, and I will tell you this every time, when you start your healing journey, you will lose people. It might be family members, it might be friends. You will lose people. It's okay. People are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. But when you start to discover who you are, you'll start to develop your boundaries. You will start to develop knowing exactly who you are. And I promise you I'll get into that here in a second. But I'm just giving you where the roadmap is. Okay? Because when you allow yourself to experience the trauma, right? And if you're working with me, it's going to be exposure. We're going to go back to the side of the trauma emotionally, not necessarily like physically. Well, we're going to go there and we're going to go through it. And I am going to trigger you. And I do want you to feel miserable. Absolutely. And if you go, oh my God, that's terrible. Why? Because you're avoiding that trigger. So that trigger and that situation now holds full power over you. You are now allowing that situation to define who you are. It is supposed to suck. The healing is supposed to be slow, repetitive, slow, repetitive. This is a constant cycle. You're going to go forward. You're going to go back. You're going to take baby steps. You're going to slide backwards. These are all things that you have to expect. You cannot rush the process. And you have to understand, no matter how healed you are, there will always be some level of these things that will come up, financial traumas. I mean, hell, when you stay in a van for a while, you're always going to have a certain level of financial trauma. You just have to talk about it, vent about it, feel it, sit in it for a few minutes or a couple days, whatever, journal it. And you're going to have to be like, okay, what can I do? Right? Because you can't just sometimes invent money. So what can you do to distract yourself? What can you do to put something into motion? Let's say it's health anxiety, right? Okay. Health anxiety is going to keep you in your brain. If you don't face that trigger, this is why you have to face your triggers. And I mean, face them hard. Now listen, don't always recommend doing it on your own. You might want to call me, call somebody and really work the program. Again, it's not fast. So I want you to keep in mind that you must go through the fire if you want to get to the other side. So if you're thinking of a way to get through your trauma, not hold on to your trauma, pretend as though it didn't exist, none of those things are going to help you and serve your best and highest good. And now that trauma has become of who you are. Oh, I'm just damaged goods. Well, let me let you in on a little secret. Every one of us on this planet and every one of you listening, me and everybody else, we're all a little damaged. Seal said it best. We're all a little bit crazy and we're all a little bit damaged. Sometimes we're a little bit more bruised in certain areas, but you can still make a pie with bruised apples. I mean, some people tell you can't, you can. Broken crayon, still color. And that's the thing, is to define who you are. Now here we're going to get into this. To define who you are, you have to first say, what do I believe? Okay. Now that's a really deep thing. What do you believe? So do you believe that you're a loser? Do you believe that you suck? Do you believe that you'll never be loved? Do you believe that stuff? Now ask yourself this question. Why do you believe it? Well, because, every relationship I've been in sucks. Okay, so now we are now saying that because these relationships didn't work out, you suck at relationships. That's not a true statement, because that's how you choose to see it. Until you shift your mindset, you will always be stuck into not knowing who you are. When you shift your mindset, that's where the confidence comes into play. Confidence comes from doing things scared. Confidence comes from doing the things you don't want to do. Confidence comes from repeating it and repeating it. And confidence and productivity and full life comes from embracing the boredom. If you can't embrace being sort of in the mundane, because a lot of your work is going to be in the mundane, babes. It's not all going to be these big giant leaps and bounds and aha moments. Nope. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, well, I already know this part, but is it integrated into your DNA, into your mind now? Because you're essentially, what I'm having you do is rewrite the dialogue that somebody else gave you based on your experiences or what somebody has said to you. And because your mom or your dad or your ex-husband or the narcissistic person down the street, if you keep holding on to their words and the actions that have happened to you, you are allowing them to dictate who you are. This is where people pleasing comes into play. You don't know who you are if you're a people pleaser. I'm going to tell you that right now. You don't get to say, I'm kind, I'm sweet, I'm not. No. Do not mistake kindness for with people pleasing. Because true kindness, now really hear this, true kindness is doing something for someone with zero expectation in return. That's kindness. People pleasing is, I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be good. But the underlying thing to that isn't just about them being good. There's a little bit of manipulation in there because you like being needed. You like being wanted. So it isn't just about the person you're pleasing. It's a tough pill for the people pleasers to swallow. It isn't just about the people who you're quote unquote making happy, which you can't make everybody happy. You're going to have to get off that. Because every time you do that, you're looking for external stuff to define who you are. So if you need your mate, apparently I'm in Australia now, if you need your mate or your spouse or anyone or your partner to remind you how loved you are on a consistent, like, oh, tell me. No, then you don't know who you are. Okay, so to know who you are is to define what is it that you actually believe. Not what were you raised as, not what did you grow up to believe, not what do you think that your life is supposed to look like. Unless you can embrace the situation, good, bad, or in neutral, right now for what it is, and you get constantly, well, I should be here, or I need to do this, or okay, cool, great to have goals. You literally have defined yourself based on an external success. So to define yourself is to, okay, I'll give you an example. And there's a few people on here who know me pretty well, okay, who are listening to this. And they know I am not super easy to get in touch with. I mean, I am, but I'm not. I'm not necessarily going to message back. I don't even really check my voicemail much, right? Because most people know, because if you're booking a session with me, you do it online. If you need something, you send me an email. Sometimes you can send me a text, but I get a lot of like calls, and like some people just want like free services, like, like random people because my number's out there, right? So people will be like, hey, I just had a question. Like, I don't really want to book a session, but I really want you to give me an answer. I'm like, okay, well, you're just going to know that's like not a thing, because now you're trying to overstep my boundary. So that, and then if I'm not peopling that day, I will literally say I'm not peopling. Now, if you consider that rude, then that's for you to process. Because it's not rude. It's literally, how much more clear do you want my boundary to be? I'm not peopling today. At no point did I say I'm not peopling because I don't like you. And that's where you have to be confident to hold your boundaries. You have to be okay in your skin. You have to be okay knowing that if you were shipwrecked on an island like Tom Hanks was, if you're shipwrecked on an island, would you be okay walking around the island and finding a washed up volleyball and naming it? Would you be okay? I mean, listen, we're social creatures, right? So we as people and as humans, we're mammals, right? So we are social. We're not like an island. But when you are good with yourself to know who you are and to know that the describing factor of who you are has nothing to do with success, a dollar sign, being a parent, being a spouse, and a lot of you are going, holy hell, then who am I? Bingo, that's where I want you to be. What do you like doing? Let me ask you that. What do you like? If money was no object, what do you like? So let's say, you guys know, as a matter of fact, I'm sitting in a hotel room right now. You'll hear this probably 11, 12 days after I've recorded it. And I'm sitting in a hotel room and I have, outside of this, I have my crochet with me. Not because I have a bunch of free time, but because I need that time. That's my space. You start to learn to know who you are based on giving yourself your consistent routine. You need your you time, even if you live by yourself. Don't say, well, I have all kinds of me time. No, you don't. Just because you're alone does not mean that you have you time. Just because you're sitting on the couch watching television doesn't mean that you have you time. That's not you time. I mean, it's distraction time. But what are you doing that's creative? What are you doing that makes you feel good? And if you say that you don't know, then you absolutely don't know who you are, because you've been defined on not disappointing people. Being defined as just being a parent, which, by the way, is a big job, but that's not a definition of who you are. So to know who you are. So let me give you an example of that. So if you said to me, who am I? Well, I'm going to tell you that I am a phoenix. And you're going to be like, what the hell? Yeah, I rose from the ashes, baby. And once I turned from my victim mentality to my empowered mentality. And it wasn't just like, overnight. Okay, great. It's fine. And there's always going to be little insecurities that poke up, and you just have to go, Phoenix. You have to figure out what your jam is. Like, what is your anchor that's going to allow you to like say, okay, this is my anchor spot, right? There's tons of anchors that we'll talk about, but that's one of them. So I'm a phoenix. And a phoenix rises from the ashes after all of the burning, after all of that stuff that happened, after all that trauma, and they rise strong by themselves while still needing the support system, but knowing that the support system doesn't define who they are. So I'm a phoenix. I'm a spiritual being. I'm a conduit for the higher power, like higher energies, and my clients. I am a healer. I am empowered. I am amazing as a human being. I am not broken. I am not broken, baby. I am me. I am not perfect. I'm flawed. I am amazing and I am irrelevant. And so are you. We're all amazing, right? Get very clear here, because this is what will keep you humble. And don't let people get in your head, because when you're confident, they'll tell you that you're full of yourself. They will tell you that you're a narcissist. They will tell you 975 million things. But the reality is, that's how you know. And remember, when people are hating on you, send them love and light, because they're coming from a hurt space. Hurt people hurt people. But get very, very clear that when you are holding your boundaries, you are protecting that person. Remember, I'm not a victim. I was victimized. Let's say I'm a magnet of abundance, and I'm a magnet of abundance in every way, so I can share that for everyone else. What I do is I am a conduit. I am a service provider, because this is my role. I didn't know my role. I didn't even know who I was, what I was, where I was going. Every day felt like a ridiculous challenge of over and over again, a Groundhog's Day from hell, right? Like every day. So outside of just the healing work and doing all that, you know what changed? My mindset. Because if you keep running into the same freaking wall 175 times, you're going to keep getting bruised. It's not going to change. The wall's not moving. Door's not going to appear. You have to stop running into the same wall. You have to stop doing the same thing. You can't say, I want to feel better, get the tools, and then say, I don't want to use those tools. Okay, well, then you're going to keep running into the wall. So don't say you're not motivated. We just did the podcast last week, or 2 weeks ago, on procrastination. Stop saying that. Motivation is not a freaking thing. I told you that. It's BS. You're looking for a reason to do something or a reason not to. I don't have motivation. I do have motivation. You just do it. A little by little if you need to. So until you can get to the space of saying, I am disciplined, And see, you don't want to lie to yourself and be like, I'm amazing and I am disciplined and oh my God, this is great. That's not what I mean. Let's not get overzealous. Let's not be ridiculous about it, because that's going to be rushing the process. So what you have to do is change that mindset and change that dialogue. So instead of going, oh my God, it sucks. Like, I'm so not motivated. I suck and I'm not organized. Like, instead of all of that, say, I am working towards becoming the person to becoming the best person that I can be, not the best person on the planet, best person I can be, to be organized and disciplined. Okay, so you say those words. That has to be on kind of repeat. Then you need to write that down. That's right, pen to pad, nothing in your notes. Like pen to pad. And then write down the steps that you're going to need to take there. I have given you guys so many tools, and I will continue to do so. Here, don't forget I do my YouTube Monday through Friday, also the Positivity Experience. And there's tons of little free nuggets in there. My TikTok, my Instagram, my Insta stories. Like I'm trying, and not just me, there's a bunch of us out here. But when it comes to me, you're over here with me right now. I'm always going to be there to give you the tools. What I'm not going to do is be there to make you use them. Get very clear on that. I am not going to force you to use them. I am not going to call you on a Sunday at 3:00 in the afternoon and go, hey, did you do those tools I gave you on Friday? I ain't doing it. It's not my job to police you. Now, I say this all the time. And really think about this. Think about, and this is for everybody, think about people who you feel are just totally draining. I don't just mean once in a while, because guess what? You've been draining as hell too. We've all been there. So I'm talking about where it's constant. Let's say it's a parent. Let's say it's a sibling. Let's say it's a friend from a long time. And I mean, they are just constantly negative. Well, why are you dealing with it? Well, they're my friend. Okay. Well, then don't complain that they're negative. You've been here before. You've been here for 30 years or 10 years. You think all of a sudden that they're just going to like change? So you have to decide what it is. And if you're like, well, maybe I can limit my time with that person. Great. See, when you get comfortable as to who you are, you become confident and you understand that you have to do what's best for you to protect your peace. Me personally, would rather walk naked down the street on hypodermic needles with open wounds to pour salt in them than I would to go to a country music concert. It's just not my jam. I mean, I appreciate it and I have much respect for anybody who does any kind of entertainment, anybody. It's not, however, my jam. So I'm not going to go. If it doesn't serve me in some way, I'm not going to go. And before you go, oh my God, but that can be like selfish, right? No, didn't say that. I didn't say there isn't a space of compromise, but there's certain things you have to kind of level yourself. So here's something really good for you to do. Understand what your non-negotiables are, and then understand what your negotiables are. At no point should your non-negotiables be a list of 50 things and your negotiables be like 2 things. Other way around, maybe. But the reason that I say that is because your non-negotiables are things that I know. The sound of country music, number one, it's just not my jam. But number two, I was made to listen to country music growing up. And it wasn't even like this kind of like cool country that I can kind of listen to every now and again, like a song like Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy or something like that. Like that's kind of cool. I can get down with that. But like still not going to go see Brooks and Dunn on a regular basis. You know what I mean? But I respect it. But I had no choice, but I had to listen to twangy country and it was always on repeat. I could not change the channel. It became something that just did not, like I was so resentful of the country music. And listen, like I said, I respect it. I'm not avoiding the trigger. I literally wholeheartedly do not like that kind of music, me personally. Okay. So like wholeheartedly, it has nothing to do with my past. It's just not my jam. Now, I like gangster rap. I like hip hop. Some of you don't, and that's okay. But country music for me, it's really not a vibe for me. And so that's the key. Do you see how I like map that out for you? You need to be clear into what doesn't serve your best and highest good. Now, if somebody said, hey, do you want to come over to my house for a barbecue? And I really wanted to spend time with you. And I knew that your favorite genre was country. And I knew at the barbecue that you were going to have country music playing. I would come over to your barbecue. Do you see where I'm saying where the compromise is? The compromise is you're still going to have to do things that you don't want to do because at the end of the day, it isn't all about you, no matter who you are. Okay, you like as a human being, you do have to compromise, but know where you're compromising is. I'm not going to go to a 3-day music festival because a 3-day music festival is nowhere near my jam. I will go to a concert for a couple hours. So that's what I'm saying. Know where you stand. And when you start to know who you are, you start to understand that you're not defined by the role in which you play in your life. Just so many people get so caught up in their jobs that when they retire, they get into a massive depression because they were like king shit in their job. They were like CEO. They were killing it. They were amazing. People loved them. People hated them. It was all kinds of things. Well, now they've retired and they're a yesterday's thought and they can't handle that because they define themselves based on that. It's the same thing when kids go off and like leave the nest. You're allowed to be a little upset, of course. But if you don't have a life outside of that, then you don't know who you are. And listen, being a parent, and especially a stay-at-home parent, holy hell, that is a hard-ass job. Probably one of the hardest jobs on the planet. Very thankless too, by the way. And I get that. So that still doesn't mean that defines who you are. So work on knowing what makes you tick. What do you really believe politically and religiously, or spiritually, I should say? What do you believe morally? Not what were you raised to believe? Go back to the religious trauma podcast if you need it. Seriously, like, what do you believe? Because if you think about it, and I've said this before, when you're born on this planet, you're from the beginning that you hit this earth, you're given programs of other people. Your parents tell you what kind of person you're going to be, what you're going to believe in, how you're going to do things, what is right, what is wrong. And of course, yes, I mean, welcome to the world of being a human being. But sometimes and if you align with that, great, beautiful. I'm always going to be your cheerleader. However, if you don't align with it, you are literally allowed to have a plot twist in your life. Oh, plot twist. That's right. You can have a plot twist in your life. You really can. It's your life. You're the storyteller. You're the director. Not in the beginning. In the beginning, you were just casted. But over a period of time, you've now taken over the franchise. Or are you still letting yourself be directed? And this happens a lot in relationships, when people say to me, God, I just want to get out. I'm just not sure how. Okay, well, do you really want to get out? I mean, yeah. Do you? Yes. Are you willing to do the research and the work? I mean, yeah, I guess. Okay, well, how bad do you want it? Because there are options. There might not be overnight, but there is always that solution, but you have to find the solution. You have to find the solution. That is solely on you. And so to know who you are is to take away and strip everything that you thought that you believed before you listen to this podcast and rebuild it. Literally write it down on paper, and then you can work on the steps to get there. But write it down on paper. What do you believe in? Maybe you're in the middle of the road politically. Maybe you're on the other side of the aisle compared to mom and dad. And you know what? What does that mean for you? Now, I'm going to use that example because I know that this is real, because I have clients who've no longer talked to their parents because of this, and or their spouse, and or their sibling, and all these things. So somebody says, well, I just don't know how they could vote this way. Okay, well, why do you need to know why they're voting that way? Why? Well, because I don't understand it. Why do you need to understand them? Why is your view on that better than theirs? Well, because it's right. No, it isn't. It's right for you. See, when you learn to stay in your aisle and learn to stay in your lane, then and only then do you allow yourself to be able to find out who you are. If you channel 1/4 of the energy that you put in trying to figure out why people are the way they are, why they do the things they do, and giving them so much power, if you could just give 1/4 of that, you'll start being okay with maybe, hey, if your parents say you're voting on the wrong side of the aisle, I don't want you at my house, then you have to decide, because that's manipulation on their part. That's right. I said it and I meant it. I said what I said. If this is you and you're telling somebody you can't come in my house because you don't vote a certain way, that's manipulation. Now, that being said, I mean, I don't want people in my home who are racist, but the difference is there wouldn't be people around me who are racist to come into my home because I already have that up as my boundaries. So I would never run the risk of that if someone was homophobic or if somebody was racist. And hey, their vision is their view is their view. I don't have to deal with it. They have full free rights to have that, but I don't have to rock with it. And you're damn sure aren't going to be coming in my house. So that's what I'm saying. But it doesn't have to be contentious. It just is what it is. And now, let me give you that alternatively. You also have to respect other people's boundaries. Okay? Like for me, we're a vaccinated house. That's fine if you're not vaccinated. You're just not going to come inside the house, especially not without a mask. And I'm not asking you to get vaccinated. I'm just saying in my space, these are my rules. And if you don't like it, we can go sit outside. I'm still going to be your friend. I'm not going to be like, I'm not talking to you. I'm just not going to put myself at risk if I don't have to. So do you hear that? I'm taking accountability for myself, but I'm not forcing what I'm saying onto somebody else. And I'm giving you the tools to do the same. And when you do that, you have to spend a lot of time in your head and a lot of time processing everything, and stop distracting yourself with things that you're busy and you got to go out with friends, and stop distracting yourself and start focusing on yourself. And then, and only then, will you start to know who you are.